On August 9th, 2025, a celestial configuration returns straight from the year 1861. And this configuration is literally screaming, "Humanity, throw your values and dreams into the furnace of reality." The configuration that will occur on August 9th, 2025, will bear its fruits within about a week before or after that date. That's the main effect. But there might also be a slight margin of error. This configuration indicates, firstly, that people's beliefs and values will be shattered against the rock of reality during this time. But on the other hand, it can also be interpreted differently. There could be manipulation of people's values, of humanity's values and beliefs. And that's the most powerful, potent weapon, because some beliefs of humanity can lift people up to the skies, make them rich, while others can literally bury them in the ground. To ground this forecast, let's take a look at what happened in 1861, when this configuration was active. And here, it's more about the destruction of humanity's illusions and beliefs, humanity's hopes. So, let's talk about the Battle of Ball's Bluff, which took place on October 21st, 1861, right when this celestial configuration was active. This was during the time of the American Civil War, which began in April 1861, that is, 6 months before this. At that time, the Union Army, the North, included 23 states from the North and West. They stood for preserving the unity of the country and opposed slavery. The North was led by President Abraham Lincoln. They fought against the Confederate Army, the South, and the Confederates were 11 states that had seceded from the United States. These were mainly the southern slaveholding states. They fought for states' rights and for preserving slavery as the foundation of their economy. And they were led by President Jefferson Davis. At that time, the North was sure that the Confederacy was just a small rebellion, a minor uprising they could deal with in a couple of days, maybe a week. At the time, there was a belief that the Northerners had a larger army, more equipment, and more resources, and the question of victory was, well, just a matter of 2 weeks. And the Northerners were also sure that their tanks were the best of the best. Newspapers, politicians, the public, all of them fueled the belief that this would be over quickly and would soon come to an end. In the end, poor reconnaissance, confusion in orders, and an unsuccessful crossing of the Potomac River led to disaster. The soldiers ended up trapped near the high bluff itself, with no way to retreat. At that point, more than 200 people were killed or drowned, and many were taken prisoner. Why was this such a disappointment? Because at first, people believed that it would all be over very quickly. Secondly, they were sure that since they were fighting for a good cause, because they were against slavery, they would definitely win. And here, too, their beliefs and values were shattered. By the way, that's when a commission to investigate the conduct of the war was also created. In other words, so that they could figure out who was to blame. Now, in August 2025, everything could happen again, and once more, in some way, people's beliefs and values might not come true, might be shattered, something like that could happen. But on the other hand, there could also be some manipulation of other people's values here. There could also be manipulation through religions here, and conflicts might arise based on religion, on values and beliefs. That's how it will be presented. Let's take a look at what happened in October 1861, specifically, on October 10th, the Philadelphia Baptist Association passed a resolution where, in lofty religious tones, they portrayed the war as a kind of holy crusade against the sin of slavery. Back then, faith was used to the fullest to get people to go to war. Now, in August 2025, there could also be conflicts on religious grounds. This celestial configuration also points to that. This configuration also suggests the likelihood of natural disasters. Although in 1861, when this configuration was at its peak, there were no natural disasters. Back then, there were just ordinary storms that seriously battered the Northern fleet during the Civil War. Some ships, of course, were destroyed, weapons fell overboard, and there were delays that lasted for months. This supports the likelihood of a prediction that there will be a disaster related to water, whether it's a natural catastrophe or the flooding of a ship. Interestingly, a bit later, in November 1861, California was hit by the Great Flood. For 43 days, it poured rain, rivers overflowed, and the valley turned into a sea. But that happened a bit later, not at the time when this particular celestial configuration was active. Maybe the configuration that will occur in August 2025 will also become a kind of beginning, a trigger for some similar dramatic natural disaster. This was me, astrologer Cepega Anastasia. See you in the next videos. Bye everyone.